What is the greatest movie ever made? It's a bold question, and to actually answer it would be even bolder. There's been lists that name Citizen Kane or The Godfather, just to name a few. Surely these films are some of the greatest movies ever made, as well as some of my personal favorites, but is the best movie ever made really a movie about a newspaper mogul? Or a violent tale of a mafia family? Does the best movie ever made have to be from the 40s or the 30s or black and white? I am in no way knocking these movies of the past, as they are crowning achievements in film and should never be forgotten. But pound for pound, what is the greatest movie ever made? A while ago, someone asked me this out of nowhere. What would make this person think I was qualified to answer? I have no idea. I quickly responded with a laugh. What an impossible question, I said. But this person was not satisfied. If you had to pick one, right now, they added, one movie. Suddenly, I found myself lost in thought, thinking back on all of the movies I had seen, all of the ones that had filled me with emotion, the ones that had made me sad, hopeful, and even scared. If this was a genre question, it would be a bit of an easier question. If it was horror, I'd say Psycho, or even Halloween, though the latter wouldn't exist without the former. If it was a musical, I'd say Singing in the Rain, or maybe even West Side Story. As I stood there for a moment thinking about all of the possibilities, two letters came rushing to my head. E.T. That's it. E.T. I spoke the letters aloud confidently. It just felt like the right choice. I don't remember exactly how the person reacted to this, but I know they were surprised. They couldn't seem to believe that was the greatest movie ever made. But yes, I said, E.T. the Extra Terrestrial. So why is E.T. the greatest movie ever made? Well, let me explain. First of all, let's talk about Steven Spielberg. Spielberg is arguably one of the greatest directors of all time, and he's proven time and time again that he is one of the most versatile directors ever. Going from movies like Jaws to Schindler's List, or Close Encounters to Raiders of the Lost Ark, to Jurassic Park, all of which sit on those same greatest movie lists, along with the aforementioned E.T. Simply put, Spielberg is a master director that would surely be on anybody's top 5 list. Spielberg has always been able to capture human stories like no one else. Case in point, E.T. The story is, of course, of an alien being left behind by his family and befriending a young boy. Okay, so Spielberg knows how to make human stories that convey emotions. What makes E.T. better than any other movie? Well, it's simple. It's the innocence and accessibility of it. Take a movie like Citizen Kane, which has come in at number 1 on AFI's list of 100 greatest movies time and time again. Citizen Kane is a compelling story about one man's life and the loss of innocence that comes to all of us with living. Now I ask you, could a 12-year-old watch Citizen Kane and truly appreciate it? Perhaps, if they are an immediate film buff. But no, most 12-year-olds aren't going to be into Charles Foster Kane. Now, some people may be saying, what the hell do I care what a 12-year-old likes? Well, when making the argument of what the greatest movie ever made is, shouldn't this movie be so great that everyone from ages 1 to 92 could like it? The genius of E.T., in fact, is it's not a kid's movie. It's an everyone movie. Sure, folks can argue that it's a movie about a child and an alien, but it is obviously more than that. E.T. is about friendship, loss, and of course, growing up. Any person, any age, in any walk of life can relate to those things. The loss that Elliot and his siblings experienced through the recent divorce of their parents and subsequent leaving of their father. The fact that Elliot in the beginning of this movie is kind of a whiny brat, but by befriending E.T. and having someone who is there for him, changes his behavior. Elliot learns through the film the bigger picture of the universe and how small he really is. He chooses to help his lost friend get home instead of sitting around and crying about his divorced parents. By the time the ending comes and E.T. dies and comes back to life, and you're left covered in tears, when that spaceship leaves, Elliot and his family are better people for having met E.T., for having helped E.T. The Godfather is an incredible film, but not everyone could get through a movie with so much violence. Yet again, the greatest movie ever made should be accessible to anyone. Someone who doesn't like violence is not going to watch a 3-hour saga that features many characters getting slaughtered and shot. Maybe your grandma doesn't like The Godfather because it's too violent. My grandmother actually loved it, but that's besides the point. You can watch E.T. with your grandmother. You can watch it with your brother, your sister, your uncle, your son, your daughter, your mother, your father, your aunt, any age, any person, any country. Not everyone has to like a good movie. That's all up to one's opinions and tastes. But if anyone watches E.T., they can easily go along on the journey and relate to the emotions if they give it a chance. E.T. literally has everything. It's funny, it's sad, it's scary, it's exciting. And while we're on the talk of excitement, let's talk about Shawn Williams. Another point in my argument is Williams. The score he composed for E.T. is absolutely amazing. The iconic moon scene score is a tune we could all hum to this day. And the triumphant bicycle getaway still makes me want to hastily pedal away from armed FBI agents. Shawn Williams, in my opinion, is the greatest film composer ever. He has created some of the most iconic themes, and whether one knows film scores or not, everyone knows a Shawn Williams theme. Along with Spielberg's directing of the amazing script written by the late Melissa Matheson, Shawn Williams' score brings so much emotion to this film. When E.T. is dying at the end, you feel it. And if you don't feel anything, you're not human or you don't have a soul. End of story. Another thing that may be the most overlooked aspect of the film is the performances. As all who have seen the movie know, the movie's main cast is basically all children. Sure, you have Peter Coyote as Keyes and Dee Wallace as the mother, both who give great performances, especially Wallace, who feels like a real mom should. Henry Thomas as Elliot, Drew Barrymore as Gertie, and Robert McNaughton as Michael lead the cast. Now, why is this such a big deal? Sure, kids have led movies before, but rarely have 3 child actors been so damn good. Stand By Me is probably one of the only other movies to come close to this caliber of child actors. Each of the 3 actors have had varying success in their adult acting endeavors, but nobody can take away just how good they are here. Thomas, in particular, gives perhaps one of the most sincere performances in film. Let's not forget, this movie is about a goddamn alien with a glowing finger, and Thomas sells it hard. He was working with a puppet for an entire film, and you feel a connection between the two. A real connection. To have 3 children give a good performance alone is difficult enough, but to have these 3 children feel like real children, feel like real siblings, all while acting alongside a puppet made of rubber, is another feat entirely. When they tease each other, it feels real. When the 2 brothers threaten to kill Gertie's doll if she tells anyone about E.T., it feels particularly real. You can relate to the forced decision the 2 brothers have to make, and you feel Barrymore's fear as well as E.T.'s sadness, confusion, and isolation. Lastly, but surely not least, E.T. is timeless. This is a movie that can be shown now, 50 years from now, or 35 years ago, and still have the same impact. Not every film has stood the test of time. Some movies, even considered to be the greatest, haven't. But E.T. has. New generations discover E.T. through their families year after year, and though our world has changed very much since 1982, it still resonates. The core story filled with emotion and adventure could appeal to any age and could take place in any time. E.T. at one time was going to have a sequel, but Spielberg and company quickly realized this would dilute the impact of the original and strip it of its innocence. In this day and age of remakes and reboots, nothing is sacred. But in my opinion, E.T. is the one movie I feel is unremakeable, at least for the next 100 years or so. To me, the film is perfect and needs no improving. So those are the reasons I feel E.T. is the greatest movie ever made. And of course, it's just an opinion, and many people will rightfully disagree and have their own. But to me, there has never been a movie like E.T. that taps into all of our human emotions so perfectly. If in 1,000 years, when we are all gone, there are only fragments of our time on this planet left, I would hope one of those things will be E.T. Thank you so much for listening. Check out the other videos on the Genuine Reels YouTube, and also check out the Genuine Reels podcast for free on iTunes for longer form discussions. Thanks again.